Obviously, by the title, you can see my project is Worldwide Life Expectancy. And you can see right here in the background, we have a little gray Earth, right? It's not the typical Earth we know all colorful right now because right now we have like a gray understanding of our life expectancy. So let's go ahead and try to change that throughout this project and see what we can do about that. So I just want to start off with this little statement for the PNAS, which is the Proceedings of National Academy of Sciences. They say that life expectancy at birth for men and women has increased throughout the 20th century. So that's a good thing. They give an example of Japanese women right now who have the highest life expectancy at birth, which is above 87 years. So that's pretty good. It's pretty high. That's a good age to live to, especially according to 1840, where the record was only 46 years, right? So that's pretty much almost like a double life expectancy that you can look forward to. But on the other hand, they say that life expectancy and lifespans have, in the recent decades, been seeing a negative correlation, especially in some countries in the last 10 years specifically. So I want to go ahead and take another close look in our data to see what we can do about these changes. So here's a little brief preview of what we're going to look at. This is my report. It's pretty simple and easy. I wanted to make it good on the eyes, make it as non-complicated as possible for you to understand. And my main reason for this is death is something that happens to everyone, right? Whether we like it or not, all of us are eventually going to die, right? But that doesn't mean that we can't, work together and try to increase our life expectancy. So, like I said earlier, we're going to be looking specifically at the years 2000 through 2015. Seeing which areas, are lacking in life expectancies and what categories are leading in deaths and see what we can do to raise our numbers. Before we get into that, let's look at the KPIs though. We got a couple of KPIs that we're using in this project. Number one and the main one is going to be obviously the average life expectancy. So the average life expectancy, it does what it says. It takes the last 15 years in our data and it just averages the life expectancy so we can get a better look at, what the average life expectancy is. And with this report, obviously you can select different individual years and get the averages for those years. And then that moves on to the next one, which is just the year over year percentage, right? So we want to compare the year over year percentages to see if we're making a positive or negative correlation. So I have this you see it's kind of big, and there's a reason for that because I used two variables here to give us the first non-blank and the last non-blank values um, for our data. So I didn't want a year such as the year 2000 where I didn't have, the year 1999. I didn't want that to show up and I didn't want something that we don't have data on. So that's why I did that. And I pretty much just did the same thing for the rest of these. So we have percent expenditure, which is basically just spending funds for the country. We have alcohol deaths year over year, hepatitis B related deaths, infant deaths, and measles related deaths. So let's go and look here. We have our data dictionary. It's pretty straightforward. I got my data from Kaggle, which is a pretty good source for data, specifically from the WHO organization. If you want to go look at it, it's on Basecamp. I have it deployed and everything, but here we just have our main data set with all of our stuff in it. And then I added these two right here because I wanted a legend on my map that was more, dynamic. That way we can look at it more in depth. And I wanted to customize it personally to see a better understanding. So let's go ahead and look at it real quick. Bear with me, it's got to load. And here we go. Here's the actual chart itself. So let's go ahead and start looking into the data, right? So up here, like I said, we have our year slider. Right now, it's just looking at the last 15 years. But if we wanted to get a more, targeted value, we can go and we can say, okay, I want the year 2007 through 2009, right? So we'll show you right here in the years, and then it'll show you down here what categories were, leading and increasing, decreasing throughout those 3 years. And then it has, the regions and stuff over here with their corresponding year-over-year percentages for each of those categories. So let's go ahead and reset this back. Here are our KPIs right here in the top right. We have life expectancy, and like I said, it's just looking at the last 15 years. So, average 71 life expectancy for the entire world right now. So that's pretty good, but the main purpose of this, like I said, is to try to get that number as high as possible. So we're at a 0.46% increase, as you can see by this arrow, which is just the year-over-year life percentage, life expectancy percentage. And like you can see right here in 2014, if we click it, we have a 0.13%. And then right here, we have a 0.34%. And so this is just looking at the last 2 years, specifically 2014 and 15, right? So brief overview of this. Obviously, you can see we have 4 different visuals. One's going to be year, and that's pretty straightforward. It's just the different years. You can see right here, the average life expectancy has slowly gone up. So we know that's good. We know we're working good. Over here, we have regions, and it just pretty much goes through with regions. This is going to be our most powerful visual right here because we want to go in and see and target our problem areas, right? So we want to see what areas are lacking and how we can help them specifically. And then the categories down here, we have 5 categories that I've picked that could be causes of meeting with death. And obviously we don't have every single cause of death, but these 5 definitely give us a better understanding than we had before of what kind of deaths are going on. And then obviously right here we have a map with the location, and here's that legend I was talking about. And just a quick summary of this, so we can move on. Blue right here is just anything above 75 years of life expectancy. So anything in the blue, we're going to be counting good. Yellow is just anything that's kind of in the middle, less than 75 but greater than 60. So you can see a majority of the world right now is sitting there. So our goal is to get those up, but especially right here, the red values, we really want to get these up because that's going to be our life expectancy under 60 years. So that's not looking too hot. So you can see right here, I'll get into it later, but where our red values are. So let's go to this region and countries tab. I'm going to turn on the drill down feature. So let's go ahead and look at this a little bit more because this is where we're going to be spending most of our time. So let's look at the big dog right here, Europe, right? He's the top leading scorer of all these regions, and he is sitting at a life expectancy of 79.68 average. So that's pretty good. If you go down here, now that we've clicked on it, you can see these are the countries in Europe that we have selected. I wanted to get a more, I limited the amount of countries in each region so I can get a better, more focused look at our data. But you could always add more because I had more, but I just wanted to, filter it out to these specific ones. So obviously, we're looking pretty good right here. You don't get to be the leader of this chart without having some good numbers. So everyone here is pretty much, in the blue. So we're looking good. But over here in the categories, we can see that, alcohol is at a 2.85% increase of deaths, right? So over here in the years, you can see, Europe's it's going down from 2014 to 15. So overall, it's going up, but we need to see because we have a 2.85% alcohol increase. We have some hepatitis B, we have some infant deaths, but overall, we need to look at that alcohol, right? Because our measles are going down, expenditure is going down, so they're spending less on funding, but alcohol, and we need to look at that. So keep that in mind because we're actually going to go back up and we're going to go to North America, which is where most of us live. And that's going to be 77.06 life expectancy. So let's go ahead and look at what the leading category is here. Okay, so we see here, same thing over here for the location, majority blue, 1 yellow. We only had 4 for this one, but you can get a pretty good understanding in here. But again, we see this alcohol, almost 4% increase. So something in these 2 countries, even though they're the leaders, we have, these decreases in the diseases and stuff like that. but stuff like infant deaths and alcohol still are relevant. So we need to do something about this alcohol, which I'll get to later. But this alcohol is definitely one of the leading causes in these higher up countries that you would expect to be on top of their game. Let's go into the opposite side of the spectrum real quick, with Africa, which is our lowest ranking, which is kind of concerning because if we look at the second least, it is 70 compared to Africa, which is 57 only. So we definitely need to look here. And so when we come here, you can see a majority of this is our problem area. So Africa is definitely leading in something, but it's leading in the red values. So that's not something we want to do. Let's go back up real quick and look at the overall. Again, there's only one other red, and that is in Afghanistan. If we zoom in here, and that's pretty stray from Africa. But for the most part, let's go back here and go to Africa. Red values all over the place, and we can see that here in the categories. The only thing that's decreasing is alcohol, which is kind of ironic, but everything else is on an increase. We got measles at the top of the list. We got hepatitis B top of the list, 2.62% in measles, 2.58% in hepatitis. Infant deaths, we got 1.6% increase. So we need to do something about this, especially here, because if we look at Sierra Leone, which is the lowest value in the lowest region, 46.50% life expectancy. That is quite bad, because if you consider 100 years old to be, a full, fulfilling life, this is not even reaching, halfway. So we definitely got to look at this. This is definitely, our target area, and that's the one we really need to start looking at. So overall, that's pretty much, our chart. If you want to look at it more, like I said, it's on Basecamp, it's deployed. You can go ahead and look at the data set and stuff like that. You can play with it, but that's all we're going to look at real quick. So what can we actually do about this? One of my suggestions here is going to be my first one. In these smaller countries like Africa, which are having these smaller numbers, we can give them more water, like more food, more water, cleaner water. Brookings.edu, you can look up the article. It's just look up Brookings.edu and then type in Africa water shortage. They say 1 in 3 people are facing water crisis in Africa. So that means 2 out of 3 people don't have clean drinking water. That's terrible. So we saw earlier 46.50 is the lowest life expectancy. That's not even a full year. That's the bottom of every single year. So we know water is so crucial to the well-being of humans, especially in our youth, because they're growing and they need the nutrients and stuff. So we need to get some clean water over here, or else the diseases like measles and hepatitis, they start to be more prevalent. So places like Europe and North America, since they're at the top of the list, we can help by sending waters, developing natural water wells. I don't know if you know who this is, Jaden Smith. You probably know Will Smith, his son, is Jaden Smith. He has his own company called Just Water, and he sends water over to these places that don't have them. He builds natural wells. He makes sure he does his part. So you can do stuff like that. Even us at home, we can limit our water. Like if we're brushing your teeth, you leave the water on. You can stop doing that. Your showers, if you're taking long showers, listening to Drake in the shower, and you're spending all this time in the shower, you need to you can stop. You can limit your water usage, so these places can have some more drinking water to raise their numbers. So that leads me on to my second suggestion, which is medicine. It's more of the same problems. So it's more of the same problems. These countries, they can't afford to have the top of the line leading medicines. We're handing out free vaccines here. I think we can spare some money to send some medicine over to these places that have the lower values. So we saw hepatitis B, measles were at the top of the charts over in Africa and Sierra Leone. 5% increases, big increases. And that's because they don't have the medicine. So we can send money, we can send aid. There's companies like Unbound. where you can sponsor kids, right? So I actually have some experience with that. Or a family a long time ago, when I was, young, he was about the same age as me. We're the same age now. He's a kid called Rudy. So we sponsor this kid called Rudy, and we've been able to get him clothes, get him the schooling he needs. And one of those things also is his vaccines, right? So when you turn 18 and 19, just recently I had to take my vaccines for this kind of stuff. So he was able to get that. He sent us the letter he always does every year, and he was able to get his vaccines. So he's doing good because we're trying to do our part. We're trying to help. And there's also charities like one specifically is called Mercy Ships, right? They specifically target Africa. So you can donate to them and they can help combat this. And then my last one is the one that is kind of the most preventable. So places like Europe and North America, they're these big dogs, but they're having all these alcohol related deaths. They're first place in both, right? The CDC, you've heard their name thrown around like recently with COVID. They say that excessive alcohol abuse is responsible for 140 deaths in the United States each year. That's each year. And it costs 249 billion in economic costs in 2010 alone. So not only is it bad for our health, bad for our lives, but it's hurting the economy. So I know alcohol, it's fun, you want to drink with your friends and stuff, but we got to take this seriously and stop all these deaths from happening. So a lot of these deaths could be prevented by a ban. I'm not saying ban alcohol, but people who get like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 handles of Tito's vodka, maybe limit it to like 1 per customer. Or maybe we can raise some recognition for alcohol abuse. I know it's out there, but you don't really see it as much compared to smoking and like vaccines. You don't really see alcohol seen in a bad light as much as these other things that are killing. But it really is a dangerous thing that we should take seriously, and we can definitely do better and raise those numbers. So that was all I had today for my suggestions. I hope that we can implement these suggestions into our real lives and maybe get somewhere and get those life expectancies maybe past the 80 year mark, maybe up to even 90. So thank you for watching my presentation. And here's that gray earth that we were talking about earlier, right? It's ugly, disgusting. We don't want this, right? With these suggestions, maybe we can make the world look a little bit more like this, colorful, happy, and we can make those life expectancy numbers go up. So